For now, let's get on with the show.
Good day to you. It is I, Andrew Threadgold, the Property Doctor, and welcome to the Property Doctor podcast. This week I'm interviewing Paul Anderson, who's a friend of mine who runs a social media channel called the Social Media Hotelier. Over this hour-long or so episode, you'll hear me and Paul talk all about various social media strategies, but particularly Instagram, algorithms, reach, reels, stories, links in bio, and all sorts of stuff that, if you're not familiar with social media, might not make a lot of sense to you until you start actually watching and listening. And then towards the end, Paul actually goes through one of my social media channels and gives me a bit of a talking to, shall we say, about the quality of it and how it could be improved. A virtual audit, if you will. So sit back, grab yourself a brew or two, you might need them, and maybe a snack, and enjoy Paul and I talking about all things Instagram. Hope to see you next time. Oh, before I forget, don't forget, subscribe and whatever they do, and leave a comment if you enjoyed it. Okay, all the best. See you later.
Yeah, very good. Shall we get on with the show?
I thought we'd already started. Have you got a running list then? Have you? Andrew?
No. Well, I'll do a little intro and then we'll just carry on.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I can chop and edit.
At your mercy. Yeah.
Hi and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Doctor podcast with me, your host, Dr. Andrew Threadgold. This week, I'm absolutely delighted to have on somebody that I've been following on social media for a very long time, Mr. Paul Anderson, who runs the channel, the Social Media Hotelier. Now, the special thing about Paul is that what he doesn't know about Instagram marketing and social media strategy as it pertains to Instagram isn't worth knowing. So, as I say, one of the key people that I wanted on the podcast for this season, and he may, if we speak to him nicely, even be persuaded to come on once or twice more over the year to be able to update us on various things happening in the world of Instagram. But let's say hello. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm very well, Andrew, and thank you for having me on. It's always such a compliment just to be invited. And what an awesome introduction. I'm a little bit nervous that I might not live up to expectations now because there's a lot that I don't know. However, I would like to pick up on it. Yes, I absolutely love talking shop, and these opportunities are wonderful. And Instagram, being what it is a constantly shifting set of rocket powered goalposts. So there will always be updates to come in, and it'd be lovely to come back, Andrew. It's delightful.
That's very kind of you. Thanks. Good. But a lot of I find a lot of property or short-term rental operators have no real idea about the power of social media, and us in particular, we try, but we're not. It's a bit hit and miss, really. So as we go along, in my mind, I thought, because we've just launched a new brand called Liberty Stays, and Liberty is, we took a property, it's effectively demolished it and rebuilt it from the ground up to make it accessible so that for people in wheelchairs or with mobility issues, so that they can come, and it's super, super, super luxe. And then we put another story above this bungalow with a master suite with views of the sea so that the carers or family members can come and they can stay in that bit, and the person with mobility issues can stay in their purpose-built bit downstairs.
Cool.
So we've launched this brand. We've got an Instagram channel, Liberty Stays, and I thought as we talk, it might be useful to have that as a frame of reference, so you could say, well, maybe you could do this and this. So, for example, with Liberty, you might want to do X, Y, and Z. It might just be something we can feed in as we go through. What do you think?
Almost do it like a live audit.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I've no idea what that means.
Let me get that page up, and then I've got it hovering around. Where are we? Liberty. There's nothing interesting in the handle, is there?
No. It's www.libertystays.org.uk.
I'm thinking more about the Instagram account.
Instagram account is at liberty_stays.
_ That's why I can't find it quickly. There we are. Right, I'll have that in the background then.
Yeah. So
and as we move through things, I can
you can point at it and laugh.
Happily use that as a frame of reference. Yeah, of course. Yeah, why not? I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, brilliant.
So for some of the uneducated amongst my listeners won't ever have heard of you, Paul. I mean, I don't know if any of them would ever admit to that. But what's your background, if you don't mind me asking? A very quick whistle-stop tour as to what you operate now and why you've ended up on social media.
Okay, so in 2006, I took a nominally 4-month backpacking trip around South America and ended up staying there for 4 years. And then when the money dropped out of the bottom of the world in 2008, my mother was also diagnosed with Parkinson's. So I was saying, oh, I'm going to come home, Mum. She was dead shuffed because I'd only been on holiday briefly, apparently. And they said to me, well, we're a bit worried about rattling around the old family home. Could we have either your bungalow or your flat, please? And I said, yes, that's absolutely fine. Let's swap and we'll argue about the difference. So I came back in 2009 from Brazil, and I turned the family home into a guest house. So my parents had run it as a guest house just for a couple of years after they retired. So after they retired, they turned the house into a guest house and then realized actually that they were going to retire. So they switched that off again. So I had quite a lot of stuff good to go. I had some of the bathrooms were en suite, all the linens. It was kind of there. I had to do quite a lot of work for internet and fire regs and more en suites and get the building sorted. But I had my first guest arrived in June of 2009. And everything was ticking along very, very well. I was a bachelor. I could open when I wanted and close when I wanted. Back in the day, it was all lumpy marketing, that type of thing. And then COVID struck. And in the run up to COVID, because I'd had warning because I'm surrounded by hospitals in Oxford, AstraZeneca jabs 600 yards away,
Right.
Realized that I'd stopped marketing. So having worked for myself since I was 25, 26, my adage was always work hard, advertise some more, go back again and make sure everyone knows who the heck you are. Because if they didn't know who you were, then they were never going to find you. And over time, the ascent of review sites, online travel agents accepting reviews, TripAdvisor and all that type of thing, my lumpy marketing just kind of died off. And it dawned on me that I was surviving on word of mouth and that was unlikely to cut it moving forwards, particularly given that no one knew what the landscape was going to look for a guest house or short-term rentals or hotels or anything like that. And so I quickly Googled like cheap advertising methods. And what's obvious to me now might not be to some of your viewers is that YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that lot cropped up because they are not really social media platforms. They are advertising agencies. The longer they can keep people on a platform, the more advertising they can put in front of them, and the more money that Mark Zuckerberg or whoever it is makes. And so I set up a Twitter account. Still don't really know what Twitter is, but it's good.
I don't have one.
And I kind of woke up with the help of a lovely man called Mark Simpson on my Facebook for the guest house, and started an Instagram account for the guest house. Now, I'd always been a very passionate photographer, and I've had exhibitions at the local university and these types of things. So I was very familiar with it, but not as a marketing tool. And what I quickly discovered was that the combination of the technical, so the metrics and the insights, and I'm always one for gadgets and ring lights and microphones and that type of thing, combined with the artistic dynamism that it affords, there's a breadth there that I don't think any other platform really encompasses. The mashing of those two things really inspired me, and it started to come through in my content. To give you an idea of my further background, was my A-levels, maths, physics, economics, and art.
Right.
I wouldn't have been any as good as those three without the art.
Right.
So that mashup really suited. My wife would say that I'm still obsessed, but I did become obsessed with it. And I tried to do everything that the Instagram gurus say to do. So post every day, do a reel every day, do Instagram stories, make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing that. And I did it for about 6 or 8 weeks. And it nearly bloody killed me. I was just lying awake at night thinking, oh, I haven't got anything to post in the morning. And trying to run my life around it, essentially, fit everything in around, oh, what's the best time to post and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I just thought this is awful, and I just chinned it off.
Right. That's really interesting because it's one of my top top tasks of the day is put something out on socials. So interesting that because I've heard you talk about this in the past, that you don't think that's necessary.
I don't. I think given the nature of our work, and our kind of bread and butter. So I have a housekeeper now, but I've run Sandfield Guest House best part of 15 years on my own. My wife does something completely different, dramatically different. Is that we are jacks of all trades. Now, my mother would always say to me, "You're a jack of all trade," and there was always a bit of a slight in there, or I felt that way. But the whole line is, jack of all trades, master of none is better than a master of just being one. And so, as a guest house proprietor, I'm a housekeeper, I'm concierge, I'm front of house, DIY, bookkeeping, tech stacks with PMSs and connecting to this online travel agent and blah, 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 blah. Marketer, receptionist. And so all of these things have a place, and it's important to have room in order to do these things because they all hold the entire business up. But only one of those is marketing. And if I'm going to sacrifice any of the others from a purely business perspective in order just to get a post out on Instagram, then something's wrong with my business mindset. Absolutely fundamentally wrong. For me personally, it's not the case for everybody, but for me. Then extend it, if that starts to impact my family life, my work-life balance, then I really need to stop and adjust. I don't want to be lying up late at night going, what am I going to post about? Knowing full well that posting without any sense of purpose, I'm going to swear now, it's just pissing in the wind. You're hoping, you're chucking stuff out there and hoping that it's going to work. So when I came back to it, I was like, right, all I'm going to do is I'm going to post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm going to figure out what I'm posting well ahead of time. And it was this that started to get me interested in the strategies that go on behind marketing before it's made public. Talking directly to ideal guests, knowing what they're going to want to know about, not being worried about repeating yourself because you need to be consistent with messaging, and just chilling with it. So instead of trying to run everything around my social media content, it then became, this is the space that I'm going to afford it. And if that's not enough, then I'll consciously make a decision to shift other things. And if it is enough, then it's enough. And I'm very glad that I did that because I was very close to just going, this is rubbish, puff, and just chinning the whole thing off. And it was that realization combined with people like Mark Simpson from Boostly, there's a lady who ran the Direct Success Booking Summit. People started asking me to come and speak and give presentations and record videos and these things. And I'd already been toying with the idea. I thought, well, if other people are making money at me, then maybe I ought to be doing that as well. Particularly because at the time we were coming out of COVID, no one knew what the guest house was going to do. No one had any idea. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to start, building other stuff. And people started asking me quite early on, with direct messaging me at Sandfield Guest House, saying, oh, why did you do that? And how did you do this? And everyone's saying, don't do that. And you're doing it. Why? And what I realized was that about half of my followers, at the time I had about 500-600 or so, half of my followers were other guest house proprietors. They were other accommodation businesses. And for me, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I was quite pleased about that. They were never going to book at Sandfield Guest House. But that gave me that confidence to go, you know what, it's not imposter syndrome. So long as I'm teaching several chapters in front of everybody else, then I can be helping people. And it just started out, right, I'm going to set up a separate account because I can't manage the two things together. Targeting the guest house at my ideal guest, and you lot are not my ideal guest because you're too busy doing your own thing. I'll set up a separate place for that, and it's just grown and grown and grown. I've been through various iterations. I used to do done for you content, not doing that ever again.
Right.
I do design strategy packages.
That sounds very, very onerous.
Yeah, it really is. And now mostly what I do is I put out the free content on at the social media Hotelier on Instagram, and one-to-one coaching services and support.
Yeah. So
I love it. It's brilliant.
yeah. Well, I mean, I first, as we spoke earlier, I first encountered you through a series of videos that you did for Boostly, and it was on the back of that the way that you present yourself and the way that you provide easily digestible and actionable things to do that made sense in a logical order. Immediately resonated with the content that you make, and then followed what you were doing. So I think the way that you do what you do is part of the reason that you're doing so well at it. So
Well, thank you. I always try, and it's very easy to see other people and gurus and go, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'll post about that." But I've always approached it as trying to give advice for hosts from a host. And there's so much noise out there that cutting through it is difficult, and that's very nice of you to say that I've been successful doing that, particularly given that boot camp that I did for Mark Simpson at Boostly was right at the beginning of my journey, really.
right.
It's February, March time last year, and I only really formally got started in the previous November. So
Right. Okay.
you got in at the ground floor.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Very good. So, are you? Well, I know the answer to this, but are you one of the advocates of dancing videos and pointing and things like this in your socials, or are you a lot more considered with a strategy in mind when you look at social media marketing or Instagram marketing?
I'm not a massive fan of the prattling about pointing at things, personally. I don't really take myself seriously. I take my work seriously, so I have been known to prat about a bit. Most of that was as an experiment, really. Number one, in personalizing my brand, because I always answer for Sanfield Guesthouse. I always answer the telephone. It's me on the end of an email. I open the front door, and so if people know that, oh, that's Paul, and that's the type of person he does when I open the door, then I've started that guest journey very early on, and so I'm very much a personal brand, particularly because I'm one of 4 guest houses out of 5 buildings.
Right. Okay.
We all do the same thing. We all provide a warm, safe, comfortable place to sleep with showers and breakfast and da 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 da. But the only thing that distinguishes us from one another is the way that we do that. I can't do what my neighbours do in the same way that they do it. And so the first question is, no, I'm not really into the silly. I am into the strategy.
Yes.
And people who you see, particularly those with large followings who are doing that dancing around and pointing at things and that type of thing, are being very strategic about how they do that. The two are not incompatible. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because you see a lot of you see a lot of people that do all that prattling about and dancing and think that that's going to drive engagement, but there's no thought behind what they're doing. They just, it's monkey see, monkey do, isn't it? Whereas a lot of the stuff, if there's a strategy behind it, there's a sequence of events that leads up to that point, and that's Absolutely what drives the process.
Yeah, so as a kind of headline journey, it begins with understanding who your perfect guest is. I don't mean a target market, I mean a subset of that, an individual.
An avatar.
A guest avatar. I always use ideal guest because people think about avatars as being slightly cartoony figures, and so your ideal guest. And that, when people talk about a guest avatar, it can confuse a little bit. So it is singular, it is your ideal guest. So to give you an example, I have I have a high season and a low season ideal guest. Because Oxford City is very cyclical with the academic year, it's very much an on and off. My high season avatar is a man called Max. So before I started to target my marketing, I would say perhaps 3 or 4 out of every 10 academics who came through my door, when they checked out, if they went and had a nasty permanent accident trying to cross a London road, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid, because I did not enjoy them being in my old family home. I didn't enjoy hosting them. They were rude. They were saying, oh, I'm an Oxford professor. Not even to think that I might have a law degree from, and just very, oh, you're here to look after me, boy, And once I started targeting Max, who is an English professor, very cool English professor. He co-published Mr. Nice by Howard Marks, for example, to give you an idea about where he is with that. I started to target him as an academic, and he was actually very, very helpful. He was shortlisted to be godfather to our son, didn't make the cut through ill health, but Max likes independent restaurants. He likes independent businesses. He wants to stay with someone who knows the local neighborhood, and so it went on. Yeah. He's very, very camp. He'd love to hear me say that I took him and I polished him off. But I took Max and I improved upon him, and Max is still growing. It's an organic thing. I revisit my high season and my low season avatar, for that matter, at least every 3 months, just to tweak it and to make sure that I'm on point. Because now I know who Max is. Max is my ideal guest. So it's not academics, it's not hospital visitors, it's Max. I've got a face. So whenever I'm talking to camera or I'm creating content, I'm thinking, what am I trying to tell Max? What does Max want to know? It's going to convince him and push him over the line to book with me, not any of my neighbors. And so you describe, there's a fancy word for it, it's called content pillars. Forget that. Topics your ideal guest will always appreciate content on. So I know, for example, that Max has 2 cars, one of which is a Prius. It's an old one, it's a Prius. So he's eco-conscious. Now, I'm 100% carbon positive. I work hard on single-use plastics. Oxford has the country's first city to have a zero emission zone. All the buses are electric hybrids. So one of my pillars is the eco stuff. Right. And okay. What I do is, across my 5 or 6 pillars, is I just rotate through them. I talk about topic 1, topic 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do 3 posts a week, so that's a fortnight. At the end of that fortnight, I take topic 1 and I stick it at the bottom of the list and I start with number 2, just to keep things. So I'm not every second Monday talking about the same rubbish. And what that does is it just consistently speaks to Max. I want Max or his pals or people who are similar to him. I don't want the other Oxford University knobheads coming upsetting me and being rude about it. I'm only swearing because I heard someone else swear on your podcast.
Yeah, no, we don't mind swearing.
As my mother would say, it demonstrates a distinct lack of vocabulary.
Well, I think
use the F word for all adjectives. And so that overarching strategy of identifying, because if you market or sell to everyone, you're not really selling to anyone. There are a whole world of phrases. There's guest avatar, there's buyer personas, there's client avatars. It doesn't really matter what your industry is. The marketers will be wanting to know with a high level of singularity to whom they are addressing the marketing in order to understand what they want to know about. And then both from our content, our posts, because what often saddens people is if you put an image post up, after about a day or so, no one's ever going to really look at it again. And then people get very obsessed about it being perfect. Because you can then take those topics and use them to inform your profile. So
how does that work? I don't understand that bit.
So on your profile, you have there's your @ handle, so @liberty_stays, and then you have a username. Now you've got Liberty Stays on yours. Why don't you say accessible short-term rental homes?
Well, I will now.
Because we already know. We already know that your Liberty Stays because you've already told us.
Right. Okay.
And this bit in bold, there's a word of warning coming up in a moment. This word in bold is the first place that the search engines and the algorithms will look if people search for anything on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
So if you're looking for an accessible short-term holiday let, you will write accessible short-term holiday let. And if you've got that in your username, then Instagram will go, oh, there's one.
Okay.
And beneath that is what's called the bio. So you get about 3 or 4 or 5 lines of space to describe what you do. I teach my students and my clients to break it into 3 sections. Who you host, so your ideal guest. How you host, so your unique selling points that separate you from the competition. And then a call to action. Hit that link and book now or find out more or start planning your stay. And so when someone sees a post that is about a topic that you know that as your ideal guest they're going to be interested in, and then they go to your profile and it just screams, "We are for you. You're looking for accessible holiday homes. We're accessible holiday home, and this is what sets us apart from the competition, and this is what to do next."
Mm.
And then we're getting a bit detailed here, but underneath
I love it.
are those circles called Instagram highlights.
Uh-huh.
And so my topics would be reviews, frequently asked questions, eco, USPs, book direct. My 5 highlights are those things. So I've designed a series of stories to answer people's questions so that they can instantly go to FAQs. What time can I check in? Oh, that's fine. Do you have Wi-Fi? Yes. Do you have parking? Yes. Do you have... So all that information is readily there. And I know from my topics that it's information that my ideal guest is going to want to know about.
Mm.
Local attractions, local places to eat. And then when people skim, because you've only got between 3 and 8 seconds on a profile for someone to decide to do one of 3 things, either get on with the rest of their lives,
or the finish on the loo,
or hit that link.
Yeah.
3 seconds for the youngsters, 8 seconds for older people. But they'll skim, they'll flick up and down and look at the pictures. They might tap one, it's unlikely, to get a first impression. Then if they hit that link and it goes onto your website, if you've done the job properly, they've gone from a post to your profile and your profile to your website, and it won't have felt like they've gone anywhere. Because all the branding will sit, the logos are the same, the languages are the same, the topics you're talking about are the same. You've already given them that decision-making information and made it readily available to them. So when they do click through to your website, they're looking for that book now button, hoping that you have vacancies for when they want to travel.
Mm.
And so using that basic structure of who do I want to host and what do they need to know becomes that strategy. It could be that they need to know that as a personal brand, you don't take yourself seriously, but you take your business seriously. And so prattling about and dancing around can work.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I always teach is that the most important thing is to understand in a piece of content the value that you're giving your ideal guest before even thinking about pictures or anything along those lines. Understand that value, write that caption, write those words, write that value, and then find the medium that will back it up. And if it's a prattling about reel, it's a prattling about reel.
Mm.
If it's a single image or a picture of something, it's a picture of something. What most people do, because of the nature of Instagram way back when, was it was a photo sharing app where people will find a picture, go, oh, it's a beautiful sunset. What can I say about it? Well, if you've already decided you're going to talk about accessibility to a beach and these are the sunsets, then you use that picture. But if you're not, then... So it starts with the value, not the image.
Yeah.
And you see that if you skim through accommodation businesses, the quantity of interior images is very, very low. It's beautiful sunsets or a mountain range. All of your competition has access to that too. It doesn't separate you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't separate you. They have their place, but I'd say certainly every 4th, 5th or 6th picture needs to be something that distinguishes you from your competition.
Excellent. Yeah. And I mean, when you scroll through, just to pick up on that picture that's just been put on there, then quite often a lot of profiles that can't think of something to say about it come up with some vacuous statement, like sunsets are better with you, or other absolute rubbish that they come up with just to fill time and put stuff out there.
Yeah.
With a meaningless caption under it. You see that an awful lot. Yeah, fascinating. So that's one thing. So someone goes onto Instagram. I mean, one of the things that really surprised me when I started watching your stuff was that, and I won't be alone in this, but lots of people don't realize that people actually search for things to buy and do on Instagram. You don't go to Google, or kids don't, or whoever. I always go to Google, but people actually go onto Instagram and type in guest houses.
More people use Instagram in the United Kingdom to source their news. So aged from 32 and under, so younger than us, but more people aged 32 and under use Instagram more than they use the BBC.
Is that right?
For their news, yeah.
Dear me. Well, no wonder you can't trust people.
I'm not going to talk about the BBC.
Hey, well, that begs a question then. In that case, if you've got a product that you're selling, in this case, a guest house or a short-term let, then you can change your username so that it is what you're selling, but there's thousands doing the same. So how do you stand out, and how do you get in front of people's eyes? Which I think then comes back to the dancing about thing, because you're trying to create engagement and you're trying to manipulate the system or the algorithm to put you in front of people, aren't you?
Okay, so there are trends. I'm going to go back to my armed forces. Strategy and tactics.
Okay.
Strategy is we need to take that bit of territory, that bit of territory, that bit of territory. Don't need to worry about anything else. That entire country is now ours. Okay? That's the strategy. That's the overarching. Tactics, right, you lot, we need to get up that hill. How are we going to do that? Right, you run around there, you sneak up behind him. That's the tactics. That's the pointy. If the tactic fits into the overall strategy, you have a chance of achieving your strategy. If the tactic is someone running around just lobbing hand grenades, you're just going to kill everybody and it's a waste of time. Okay?
Right, yeah.
So we take that analogy over
to guest houses.
to guest houses.
Grenades and guest houses.
Is that you can jump on a trend, and certainly when reels were really massively being pushed, you could jump on a trend and you'd reach lots and lots of people. Fine. But are they the people who are your ideal guests, who will want to come back again and again and write reviews? Will they even book with you, or they just think, oh, it's funny that some guy's prattling about? It's a distinction. So it comes back to these topics, these content pillars. If you are consistently publishing content about 4, 5, or 6 topics, the algorithms, and there are tens of thousands of them, will understand what you do, why you do it, how you do it, what your content is about. Okay.
All right. Okay.
The algorithms are designed to try and understand content and put it in front of the people who are most likely to value it. So you've got your content here, whole swathe of ideal guests there, and the algorithms are deciding who to send it to. So if you're constantly targeting your ideal guest, and if the algorithms are giving your content to your ideal guest and they're then engaging with it, then the algorithms will put it to more people who fit your ideal guest characteristics. And then they will widen that, and eventually it's no longer your ideal guest. They're not really very interested, and the algorithms go, okay, that's enough now, and they'll close it off. But the algorithms are monitoring where people are creating content from and where people are consuming it, micro gestures, whether you tap it, whether you don't, whether you like it, are you going to share it, what's your age, where do you live, what's your likely income given, the amount of data points that are taken then to build an avatar of consumers as well as creators is in order to join the two together. Simply because if the algorithms see that the content is valuable and the people are going to engage in it, it means the people are going to engage in it for longer. They're going to stay on the platform for longer. And Instagram is not a social media platform. It's a marketing agency. They put more paid advertising in front of people. So it's people go, oh, the algorithm hates me. No, you're confusing the algorithm because you're not sticking to topics you know your ideal guest is interested in. It's a picture of your grandson's birthday, and then there's a dog. And then there's I'm on holiday in Malaga now. Well, there is a place for context and personal branding in there, but you're teaching the algorithm that you're about all these different, the algorithm just doesn't know what you're about. So it will struggle to put you in front of the right people. If you're scattergunning, the algorithms will scattergun. And it's just hit and miss at that point, isn't it?
Interesting.
The algorithms are constantly learning about people's behaviors as consumers and as publishers, essentially.
So in that case, then, does it matter whether you are posting a still image or whether you're posting a little video or a story. Does any of that make any difference?
If it supports the value that you're trying to deliver to your ideal guest, then it doesn't really matter. I have static image posts and carousels, so that's where you have more than one image above the same caption that have done massively better than Reels.
Really? Right. That's fascinating.
Particularly now, because Instagram is shifting, it's redressing its focus back away from video. So last year, Instagram panicked. Oh, TikTok's taken over the world, right? And so they were like, well, we're going to do full screen feed as well. We're going to go video first as well, because it seems to be working for them. And most of the Instagram community went, what are you doing? If we want TikTok, we'll go to TikTok.
Yeah.
You're losing your roots, and you'll never be a leader if you're following. And this was when everyone's going crazy about Reels. What's an Instagram Reel? A Reel is just a short video. That's all it is. It's just a very short video, up to 90 seconds now. So really, really short. And so now they're leaning back and they're realizing that people do enjoy consuming pictures, and they like carousels, and you can use carousels to create a story and inform people and these types of things. So recently people go, oh, my reach is really, really low. That's because there's a lot of work going on in the back office of Instagram that is throwing the algorithms off kilter, because they're like, what's going on now? Because they're changing the dials in order to try and keep people on the platform for longer and give them what they want. Okay. And so my weekly template reels, where you just tap template, put your own pictures in, probably get seen by about 500 people in total, 500-600 people. Now I have 1,500 followers, so there's less than a third of people who follow me are seeing it. And maybe half of them aren't following me anyway. So it's a very slim sliver. And yet the carousel that I put out recently, about 800-900 people saw that. So it very much, the medium and the artistic-y bit needs simply just to support the value that you're giving. And if that's the best way to communicate that value, then that's the best way. There's no right or wrong. But the days of putting a reel out and getting 10,000-20,000 people watching it, gone.
Yeah. So
unless you have an enormous following, in which case your numbers are always going to be bigger. So.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I've picked up from what you've said there. One is that the number of people following you isn't necessarily of any importance, because it's the quality, it's getting what you've got in front of the right eyes that matters, not the number of people, because they could be all people in other businesses that are never going to stay with you that are following you.
Yeah.
And in which case the number of people following you is irrelevant if you're trying to get them to stay there. So that's one point.
It's absolutely a vanity metric. And just to give you a nice metaphor for that, if you're driving up the M40 between Oxford and London, thousands and thousands and thousands of cars are seeing a billboard advert. If the advert is about a small bakery in Greece, how many people are going to go to the bakery? None. Yeah. If the bakery in Greece has a newspaper advert and 500 people see it, they're probably going to do some trade off the back of it, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that was the first thing that I've taken away. And then the second thing that I've taken away is that being consistent with your topics or your pillars are more likely to grow an audience than being a scattergun and just posting whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. This bakery in Greece is not going to be sticking a billboard on the M40 talking about how great Rome is.
No, absolutely.
Really, if it's not connected to you, go, I'm on holiday in Rome. Yeah, but you run a Greek what? Yeah. Equally, if someone sees a piece of content that is you prattling about, or I don't know, you're throwing a frisbee and the dog's jumping up and you make a really nice video of it and they're grabbing it, and then they go to and they think, oh yeah, dog stuff, and then they go to your profile and it's accessible short-term rentals. They're going to get on with the rest of their lives, aren't they? Because that's not what they're looking for. They are. It may be, oh, that sounds interesting, but they're only going to your profile because either they've searched for it, in which case it's quite active, or they've chanced upon content of yours. But when they go to the profile, if you let them down, and you don't continue that narrative journey, one of a less fancy phrase, then they're just going to go, wait, where's my dancing dogs?
Mm. Right. So the next question regarding something that's just come to my mind whilst we were talking there is there is a lot of effort needed to do this stuff and to get you seen in front of people's faces. But is it actually worth doing? Is there a trend when you've got the behemoths of Airbnb and Booking.com? Is there actually a trend away from those? Is there a space where Instagram works for people to get people to book direct?
Absolutely right. So if you think of Instagram as a massive funnel, you've got nearly 2.5 billion users every month.
Wow.
That's just shy of 47% of all smartphone owners on the planet.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of
That's
people.
a lot of eyes.
The idea is ultimately to teach the algorithms and to channel your ideal guests. So start slicing this down to your bio where the link is. Now that link could be to your Airbnb listing. That link could be to your Booking.com listing. It could be to a direct booking website.
Mm-hmm.
It then comes down
to a direct booking website.
Pardon?
It should be to a direct booking website if you're going to do it.
I don't think the relationship between Instagram and those is necessarily important. I think it then comes down to a business decision. So it's my job to teach people how to get their ideal guests to hit that link.
Right. Okay. Yep.
At which point, there's a whole world of people who do website design and direct bookings, and there's Mark Simpson and there's Bart Sobeys and there's iBooker and Booster, and it just goes on and on and on. Mm-hmm. That's their area of expertise. My zone of genius. There's a social media, but my zone of genius
to get people
is to get people to get that link.
Yeah.
I think at which point the decision on what that link should be is more of a business decision. Okay. Am I going to pay a commission to an online travel agent who has millions of pounds worth of marketing and Google ads and all the rest of it to essentially do my marketing for me? I know it's a marketing exercise, but to get them there, am I just going to be supporting that? Mm-hmm. Or do I want to build my own house on my own land, not have any online travel agents, in which case definitely to your website? Or is it a balance between the two? Mm-hmm. People certainly, I know my competition are quite happy not to do any social media marketing, and they're quite happy in 80-90% of their trade comes from Booking.com.
Right.
Fine. When the pandemic hit, so we went into lockdown on March 23rd. On March 24th, Booking.com emailed everyone on the planet who had a booking in the United Kingdom and said, don't worry, you'll get your money back even if you paid a non-refundable deposit. And just pulled the rugs out from
absolutely
everybody, apart from those who weren't standing on the rug. So,
Yeah, understood. Well, I mean, slightly off topic. I've had a thing with Airbnb yesterday. I was putting another listing that we've got on Airbnb because I need to do that in order to get my channel manager to pull the information from it so I can have it on my channel manager. And 40 minutes of work doing it, and then Airbnb just takes it off and deletes it because it thinks that I haven't got enough photos, even though I had 7 pictures. So I thought, oh, well, must be me. So I tried it again. 40 minutes of work later, just gets deleted. This is automatically deleting because you haven't got. So, I mean, Airbnb, there's a business model that they're trying to chase everybody down to renting out their garage as a short-term let at the minute. So they're just chasing. They're going away from their roots, I think. And for me personally, the sooner that I can get more direct bookings, the better. But that's why I'm interested.
Yeah, I've always been a believer that direct bookings are the way to go. So certainly when the pandemic hit here and we got thrown into lockdown, first thing I did was phone everybody who had a booking with me. And I said, don't worry, everything will be fine. If you let me keep your deposit, I'll give you 10% off when you rebook. Mm-hmm. One person said, you know what, I'm going to be in dire straits as well. Can I have my 80 quid back? And I said, yeah, fine. Everyone else let me hang on to that. All of the Booking.com stuff and Expedia and that, I had to go straight back.
Yeah.
Thousands of pounds in gone. And it was money I'd already spent because it's cash flow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's non-refundable. That's mine now. That's mine. You cancel, that's your problem. As a reformed lawyer, force majeure can cut both ways, I think. It can be, particularly when you're beholden. Equally, I think, I have a friend, I'm part of the Oxford Round Table, and he raised money for local charities, and he manages 15 or 20 local short-term rentals, and he uses, on behalf of other owners, and he uses Airbnb exclusively. He's very, very happy with that, and it works for him. So it's very much a business decision. Personally,
but you hear
very,
all
very
sorts
hard to own what I do and how I do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the part of it is the worry. You hear quite a lot, or I do, about Airbnb refunding 30% of their booking because they found a pube under the toilet seat or something when they checked in, and there's nothing that you can do about it. They can do it at will. So
you're at someone else's mercy. You really are.
Yeah, it's so as you say, building your house on your own land is definitely, or at least trying to.
And Instagram is a very good way of doing that because you control that marketing. You control what you're doing. You control your ideal guest, whereas online travel agents are just looking to get booking.
But they have the massive reach. So how do we bridge that gap between our tiny reach that seems to be randomly generated by Instagram in terms of who it puts it to?
Well, there's nothing random about it, Andrew. There's nothing random about it. It's very, very calculated. Instagram will put content that it's understood in front of people it believes will value it. The tens of thousands of algorithms are constantly there to calculate. It's possibly one of the most calculated things on the planet, I believe, is how to keep people's attention. Attention is the new oil. You can mine attention and you'll make a fortune. So if you're constantly targeting your content at a particular individual, the algorithms will understand what that content is about, and it will try and match that content to that individual or that characteristic of individual. It will know that eventually, because it has all these data points. So if 100 people engage with a piece of content, it knows exactly how old they are. It knows what gender it is. It knows what their interests are. It knows where they live. It knows what type of device they have. Is it an old Samsung? Is it a brand new iPhone? All of this data paints a picture. It's incredibly calculated. And so it's not about the reach. It's about reaching the people who want to stay with you.
Yeah.
Anyone else, they want to stay with you. It's not them.
Yeah, understood.
Or if they're never going to want to. And so
So why is it so difficult then, in that case, why is it so difficult to turn your Instagram page into as good as your page on Airbnb?
So the notion of an ideal guest is in order to attract the people that you like hosting, where you understand their expectations before they arrive. It makes it very easy then to exceed the expectations. You know that they're going to be happy with everything that you do, and they're not going to go and bitch and whine and whinge on Airbnb because of a slightly grubby teaspoon. They will be the people who write you the 5-star reviews on the independent sites. They were the people who will tell their friends who, would you believe it, quite similar people to them, where they should go and stay on their next holiday, and they become your sales network. So whilst Airbnb has got all this money going far and wide, and you don't know who you're hosting unless you use someone like Superhulk to vet people and all the rest of it. So if you want that, then that's the way to go. I'm in a fairly unique position in that I don't have short-term rentals. I have a guest house. It's my old family home that I've been in since I was 8 or 9 years old. I'm the person who answers the door. My wife and kids are here. And so it's understanding who that person is very important. And I get lots of bookings from online travel agents, and they don't even tell me what time they're coming. So I have to cancel my dinner plans, or I have to, there's all of that goes in there. And so for me, taking ownership of my marketing and speaking to Max, who's a very considerate man, and of course, if I'm going to be delayed, I'll let you know, I'll drop you a text message, and all of that type of stuff has its own benefits that are beyond heads on beds.
Yeah.
Which is what Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, VRBO are all looking to do. Heads on beds, that's it. That's the bottom line. Now, but as I said, that suits some business models. It doesn't suit mine, but there will be a blend between that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I put a post out and one person sees it, and they're my ideal guest, and they book with me, that's a win. If I put a post out, 13,000 people see it, no one is of any interest in coming to Oxford, let alone staying with me. I've achieved brand awareness, perhaps. That's it.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of coming back to the things that people are bothered about with social media, things like reach, which actually reach doesn't matter. What about engagement?
The
well,
more
reach matters if
get,
it's to
the
the
more
right
likely you are to grab those ideal guests.
Right.
But the trick, certainly from a brand awareness perspective, is to reach people who are not following you. Because everyone who's following you knows who you are and what you do. It's important to keep them happy, but it's the non-followers that you want to get the new trade in. Yeah.
Okay. And what about engagement then, which is when somebody comments and you comment after it, or more people comment on? Am I right? Is that engagement?
Yes. Well, it's if a consumer of content engages with content, and that is just it can be as simple as just looking at it, because the algorithms are seeing how long people are looking at a picture and then reading the words, even at that granular level, to liking it, to sharing it, to whatever that is, that signals to the algorithms that it's valuable. So it's very transactional. We create valuable content, people engage with it, Instagram shows it to more people. And if you've taught the algorithms, then they will show it to the people who you're targeting.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So engagement is important in order to engender reach, and engagement is helpful because unlike Facebook, Instagram doesn't have groups. Your account is your group. It is your community. And so having people engaging with that and dialogue, and people ranting about, I often use controversy just to provoke conversation. People, oh, you're just doing it because you want engagement and you want reach. Actually, no, I'm actually genuinely interested in whether other people have a slightly different take on something. If I strongly believe in something and it's not the norm, I'll usually go for that and to see what other people come back like, oh, actually, you know what? I was wrong. So engagement is an indicator to the algorithms that content has value. And if you've targeted your ideal guest, it'll be your ideal guest who's engaging with it, and then the algorithms will show it to more people who are congruent or similar to that ideal guest.
Okay, understood. Okay, so for anybody listening and potentially using the Liberty site as an example, have you got a few tips or a few basic things that every good Instagram account looking for direct bookings should adopt?
Yeah, I'm known for my candor, so let's go.
Go on then.
So the bold bit that follows your headline stats, so your number of posts, number of followers, and how many people you're following, that bold bit is massively searchable. And that's the place to say what you do and where you do it.
Okay.
So I would be putting accessible holiday homes, red car.
Okay.
That would go in there. Instantly people know what you're doing. What you haven't done, and it's difficult because I don't know, well, people will be listening as well as watching on this, is that you don't say who you host. You say you're accessible. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Most places are accessible to me. Well done. Accessible to whom? People who are hard of hearing, or people who struggle walking, or it's accessible from where? To where?
Yeah.
Who are you hosting? Who is your ideal guest? And then what sets you apart? So your Liberty Stays, you've said making holiday homes accessible for all, and then later on you said holiday rental. Well, thanks for repeating that.
Okay, yeah.
you've said it's accessible, and then you've said accessible, and there's a picture of someone using a wheelchair. So that does, you're repeating, but you're not clarifying. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You're by the sea. You're on an island. Plenty of folk by the sea, aren't there? 2 minutes from beach. Okay.
Yeah.
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 I read somewhere, and I'm not sure if it's true. I've struggled to check it out, but there's nowhere in the British Isles where you're more than an hour from the coast.
Right. Okay.
So everybody is. Londoners even.
There's a bloody booking.com link. So my daughter, she's going to kill me for this, but she's a marketing expert, apparently. Has put in, rather than our Liberty website, she's got a booking.com.
That's because the client has given her a bad target. Slightly confused target.
Yeah.
That's not the marketing bit. Once they hit
mission
that,
control,
that's when another world of marketing takes over. So if you're getting a lot of booking.com bookings coming from Instagram, she's doing a very good job. I'm not going to click into any of the reels because it'll throw music all over your recording.
Okay.
So Instagram, the overwhelming majority of people who consume content on Instagram will do so on a mobile device.
Okay.
Mobile devices are taller than they are wider. My recommendation is to use images that are taller than they are wider.
Okay.
You have quite a lot of landscape images, and I understand why, because most professional photographers will go in and take a lot of landscape images to go on a website because computer screens are wider than they are taller. My top tip would be, if you are engaging with a professional photographer, ask them to rotate their camera through 90 degrees for some of the shots once they've lined them up. Those of us, I don't, but there are plenty of people who use Canva for the graphic design. If you click the thing that says Instagram post, you will get a square. You're actually allowed up to 1350 pixels tall. And what that means is when someone's scrolling through, you will dominate the screen. You won't get the tail end of the previous post, and when the consumer won't be tempted to look at the next post. You will dominate that entire screen. So for all your graphic designers out there, 1080 by 1350 tall, for static image posts and carousels, 1920 for reels and stories. Yeah, loads and loads of horizontal images here. There are only 6 posts for me to look at. I love the styling. I think your profile picture, so that's a circle to the left that says, and I'm appearing even on a 27-inch Mac, says Liberty stays accessible living. I can be making that much bolder. It needs to pop. So you've got it on a white background, but the screen itself is white. You've got white on white. I'd be flipping those colors and then using that lovely goldy color dotted throughout your content. It's difficult to see what your branding looks like because, as you say, it goes through to booking.com. But things like consistent use of fonts, colors, that type of thing would be super. I'm not going to click on the reel, but your penultimate reel has a TikTok watermark on it.
It does.
Social media platforms don't like advertising other social media platforms. I will not have a sign outside my guest house that says "Stay next door." It will. I know I said reach isn't important. Reach does have its place, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Watermarked videos, particularly if the watermark is not from the platform upon which it's posted, will have their reach strangled.
Right.
The algorithms will go, yeah. Not advertising TikTok.
Especially on Instagram.
Yeah, and TikTok will do the same.
Yeah.
If it's got a Meta badge on it somewhere, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is.
Yeah. Wow.
So those would be my top tips as a first impression.
Amazing tips. I'll be when I've edited this video, I'll be pointing the marketing expert at the suggestions made.
Lovely jubbly. There is no right or wrong about this. I like that there's always a call to action, pretty much. It's pointing people at your link in bio. This will mean that people will be less engaged to like it because you're not asking them to like it. They'll be less engaged to comment on it because you're asking. So if you use a singular, your call to action should always be singular. But if it's singular across all of your content, you're putting all of your eggs in that link in bio basket rather than spreading that engagement.
Okay.
It's very good, actually. It's very, very good. I like it. I like the half dozen dots that separate the hashtags from the caption that you've been using. Yeah, super. It's really good.
Thank you.
In my opinion.
She will see
Other
that.
people might hate it. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Fantastic. So if people want your sage advice or your help in designing or auditing and coming up with content pillars and captions that pop, then where can they find you?
So on my Instagram page, which is at the social media hotelier, that is by far and away the best place to start. I focus most, if not all, of my energies there. If I'm not doing it well on Instagram there, then I really can't talk about being a host who's very good at Instagram, can I? And that is all free resources and tips and tricks and updates and strategy and that type of thing. I design it for hosts, from a host, to try and cut through all that Insta guru noise. Then my link in bio, there's lots of free resources in there. Eventually there'll be a link through to this podcast itself, and then details about all of my paid services. But at the socialmediahotelier.com on Instagram is the best place to start. I do have in the pipeline my own podcast coming up, and there's an app in development. So there's all that type of stuff chewing up behind it. But find me on Instagram. You can always send me a direct message. I do weekly Ask Me Anythings on a Wednesday. I do weekly templates on a Friday, and that's all just going to dial up.
Fantastic. And I can honestly, heartily recommend following Paul, because I've had lots of great stuff that I've learnt from his stuff. And as you can tell, he's quite an engaging chap with his orange beanie on. That
I bought this when our son was born, or became a toddler, and our daughter was born. And I'll tell you why. I'm about 6'2", and I wanted a way that my children could quickly identify me in a crowd.
Like, where's
no
Wally?
No one wears a binman's beanie, do they, really? Unless you're a binman. And then it dawned on me, well, if I'm going to stick out from a crowd, then if I've always got my beanie on, then everyone will know it's me. And I do get messages, people saying, where's your beanie? What's happened to the beanie? It's August. What do you want? Sweating away behind the camera and the bloody lights and all the rest of it. So yeah, there I am with my beanie. It's to help me stand out in the crowd, but originally to help my kids find me if they got stranded.
Yeah, and I think it works. It's good. Brilliant. Well, I think that'll round up our first episode with you, Paul. I would love to have you back on later on in the year when
I'd love to come back, Andrew. That would be absolutely awesome. Absolutely
fantastic. Awesome. Brilliant. So, ladies and gentlemen, big thank you to Paul. Thanks very much, mate. Everybody. And I'll see you again soon.
Lovely. Thanks again, Andrew. Cheerio.